Yeah. Well, every time I try to call Archangel Raphael, he's playing ping pong. And it's getting really annoying because he was supposed to give me my superpower by now. I mean, what am I supposed to do without it? How am I going to save the world if I don't have a superpower? Oh, you're right there. Yeah, well, just tell him I don't care about being able to throw things as far as I want anymore. Just tell him to surprise me with a superpower. I don't really care what it is. Yeah, okay, I gotta go. Bye. Well, I'm doing my job. Some other people, I won't mention names, are not doing theirs. The content of this video is extremely important, and it is my attempt to condense the most powerful message I can in a short period of time. Before getting into it, I just want to share how overwhelmed I feel. I can feel a battle raging in myself. One side wants to stay small, and there's some negative self-talk and feelings of severe lethargy and a feeling of, I can't do this, yet I know it has to be done. I cannot wait. We cannot wait. In order to deliver this message, I decided it would be best to type it out and then embellish as I read. In this way, I can be assured that I will not forget to mention the most pertinent details. I'd rather speak off the cuff, and I would rather be having conversations with people than talking to this stupid device, yet this is what the situation calls for. So let's get into it. We're all hearing the message of unification constantly, right? But what is stopping us from unifying? I'm going to go ahead and answer that. The answer is fragmented understanding, meaning that we don't have a common ground. In order to do anything, in order to take any action at all, we have to establish common ground, so it starts with common understanding. So let's take a little excursion down the rabbit hole now. In the simplest terms, what is the problem here? The problem is that the world is under the yoke of darkness, a force of evil which we admittedly know not exactly what it is. Yet we know for sure that it exists because of its effects. Just take a little walk outside, you'll see what I mean. The more awake you are, the more things give it away. Little weeds growing in the cracks in the sidewalk, for example. A little cut on the wrist. Littler things give it away more and more the more awake you are. It operates through frequencies, this force of darkness, implanting messages in people's minds in order to carry forth its agenda of keeping the world mired in a hellish vibration. That's the agenda. Keeping it stuck. Apart from us, darkness has no power, as it relies upon us to carry out its sick agenda, leading me to believe that darkness is not a force that exists independently of us, but rather is the collective unconscious, which we have commissioned to perform its insane role. And notice this perspective puts this squarely upon us. There's nothing to blame outside of it. I went into this in a previous video about how we have a three-way split, which I think is the best explanation we have in terms of what darkness is. But I will freely admit that I don't know. It's a narrative, but I believe it's a helpful narrative. So we can judge it according to how helpful it actually is. Why it was given this role in the first place can only be speculated upon. Again, the role is keeping the world mired in this hellish vibration. Yet it seems likely that a mad idea arose in heaven to split off from God, and because this was impossible, in truth, a world of illusion was made where this pseudo-reality could be experienced. And we know it's not real. I mean, physics has basically proven that it's not real. Science always takes a while to catch up with what saints and sages always knew. The power of this illusory world attests to the power of God, as this false experience is extremely convincing and has the vast majority of the world completely fooled. Still, after all this time, after 10 years or so of YouTube, and being able to research whatever we want with high-speed internet, still, most of the world is fooled. I was fooled to a certain degree. I was awake to a certain degree, but I was also fooled to a certain degree. We've all been fooled to a certain degree. It's been a very, very convincing illusion. Darkness is the veil which keeps the light of God from us and reflects the decision to remain separated. So there we go. We're calling this a decision. And where does the decision lie? It lies with me. It lies with you. Nowhere else but you, really. You are the center of your own universe. You are the center of your realities. Your decision is the most powerful thing in your universe. You got to remember that. Don't put your decision onto somebody else and have them decide for you. That's not how we're going to make this happen. How exactly souls were either birthed into this reality or duped into biting the apple is, of course, a matter of speculation. But the satanic rituals performed in order to steal power from the innocent and consolidate this power such that these demons rule the world as they do now gives us a good idea about what has been occurring since the beginning. Because it's always been going on, as far as we know. Needless to say, diabolical deceit was used, as evidenced by the overwhelming amount of continuous use of deceit still used today. Obviously, it's all over the place. It's in everything. This deceit knows no bounds. And oftentimes, what appears to be genuine quickly morphs into something that's deceitful and useless. Ranges from either useless or to all-out evil. The way darkness operates is largely a mystery, but it helps to understand how it controls humanity by studying insects such as ants, bees, and termites. Unfortunately, darkness does not reveal its secrets, which is why we don't know for sure how it operates, yet not knowing has become completely intolerable. I hope you are experiencing the same sentiment as me right there. That is completely intolerable not to know. Not with stakes like these involved. We must not accept our state of ignorance any longer. We must demand knowledge, and this can only be achieved by lifting the world into a vibration where knowledge is restored. So here I'm making clear that there's an order of operations. That we're probably not going to be able to know anything for sure until we get something done to lift the world into a higher vibration. That's my view. That's my narrative. And I think it's the best one we have, by the way. What we do know for sure is that the insane idea of making a false reality must have been shared in order to be realized. Very important. And the same kind of collective power will be needed to undo this world. I'll make this very clear. Under this context, we need not know much about history other than the fact that it has been one long concatenation of human beings who allowed themselves to be tempted by darkness until they became darkness itself and did the work of keeping the world a hellish place. It always comes down to our decision. Now, the motto of darkness is not simply divide and conquer. It's a little bit more than that. It actually is unify in order to divide and conquer. And that is a very important distinction to be made. Whereas our motto must simply be unify and harmonize. Now, harmonization you can imagine like a choir of angels singing. And not just singing notes that are in so-called harmony, in terms of being thirds and fifths and the like, but harmonizing so perfectly that it creates immense beauty. And that's basically what we need to do, is come together and harmonize and find this amazing flow, such that we have a lot of fun, but get shit done too. If we cannot match the ability of darkness to unify, we cannot expect liberation from it. Let me read that again. If we cannot match the ability of darkness to unify, we cannot expect liberation from it. Very important. Important things cannot be stated too often until you know them inside out. So I don't mind repeating myself. Because this is not about adding content to our minds. It's about really, really getting what is most crucial. The first step towards liberation is coming to a common understanding. A common understanding, just like I mentioned in the beginning. What I have shared with you about darkness is certainly important, absolutely important. Yet it is not nearly as important as employing knowledge which is basic and universal to us. They're both important. There's fundamental knowledge, which is the basic knowledge that we know from experience, and then there's this, what we could call occult knowledge, like I'm describing about darkness. They're both critical, because in the occult knowledge we get the narrative, and the basic knowledge is how we get the conviction for action. This basic and universal knowledge here could best be summarized as the power of relationships. Power of relationships. One more time. Smack the table or stomp the floor and say it with me. Power of relationships. So important. This is the angle that I'm coming from exclusively, in my vision, to save the world. When we come together and form real heart-based bonds, our synergy is the force which dispels darkness. In other words, you alone can't do a whole hell of a lot. You can tell it to F off, but it's the synergy. That's where we really amplify our light and dispel darkness. On a massive scale, this energy would be able to rid the world of darkness in days, if not hours or minutes. And I'm going to consistently maintain that a period of 100 days is reasonable for us. We could do this much faster in theory. In fact, it could just take an instant if we all were of like mind. But I'm allowing for 100 days. That's reasonable. Given the extreme death toll and suffering that we experience every single minute of every day here, we cannot extend the timeline out too far. So I think 100 days is reasonable. We should be able to agree on that. If we truly care, we will take some time to reflect on the power of relationships and realize that it is the underlying issue which allows for all other problems to exist. I said all, not many or most, all. All problems are relational problems because existence really is defined by relationships. Who you are is defined by who you're in relation to. It doesn't make any sense to talk about existing in a vacuum. You are who you are because of what you're in relationship to. So of course, relationships has to be it. Given that the problem is unhealthy relationships, the solution must be to solve the problem through a practice of healthy, heart-based relating. The solution cannot be a whimsical idea to try to be nicer to people, but must be a practice we commit to. A practice in which we commit to a group of others who are deeply committed to planetary liberation, and thus show up with the requisite honesty. So here I'm making very clear that just getting a few people together at random is not going to do it. It's the ones with the greatest desire that are the most important because they're going to want to show up with the needed honesty, which is so vitally important. They're going to be completely willing to have the persona be dissolved completely so these synergistic bonds can really become powerful. I have created the plan for this purpose, the purpose of coming together and practicing. As far as I can see, there is no other way, and I have been completely invested in this for 20 years, really my whole life, but consciously for 20 years, searching relentlessly, high and low, for answers. It's absolutely true. If there were a better way, I would offer it to you. If there was another teacher or teaching to get behind instead of me, I'd point you to them. I just don't see it though. That's why I'm coming forward, that's why I'm doing this. Because I know that it's necessary for me to. Now let me tell you about how I would like to proceed. First of all, if you received an email directly from me, reply. Please reply. Don't be lazy and shirk your responsibility. This is about taking action without delay. See, every day we have to do something. Saving the world is actually not such a big deal. It's not so damn hard to do. But we have to take action every day. Intelligent action, organized action every single day. That's what's being called of us. You can still do your job, you can still do whatever else, but you have to add intelligent action into your life. That's not optional. As much as I am anxious about the idea of stepping into the spotlight, I feel I have no choice because I have no confidence that we will succeed if I don't come forward. That's absolutely true. I will be perfectly honest in admitting how scary this is for me, but my concern for my loved ones must take precedence over my fear. And hopefully you can say the same thing for yourself as well. We got to be able to be willing to experience a little bit of discomfort in order to protect the ones we truly love. Rather than attempt to organize any more grassroots activity, we need to go big. We need to go big so that we can begin to consolidate our energy and resources right away. I will politely ask that you share this video in the article entitled A New Conversation, but hopefully you will feel the necessity of doing so. Right now, our priority is to get the message out such that taking action and organizing becomes easier and more streamlined. Finally, I want to share with you that I am deeply distressed and am experiencing intolerable amounts of pressure and electrification on my body. This has been going on a very long time and it's been pure hell. I need relief as badly as anyone. Your kind words mean a lot to me, so maybe you can make that one of your first actions. So I'll close now. People, it's go time. We're not going to wait any longer. If I have to be the one to say it, so be it. If you have been dedicated to the truth anywhere near as much as me, you know damn well that delays are entirely unacceptable. The questions I will leave with you now are, will you entertain the idea that the world teeters upon your decision? Will you entertain the idea that you are so powerful that the world cannot be liberated without you? And lastly, will you entertain the idea that saving the world is not nearly as difficult as you imagine it to be? It's go time. That means action. Liberation of the world has officially begun.